heard the recent news, if you're in or around the real estate industry, and even if you're not, that Rocket, we'll call them Rocket Mortgage, merged with Redfin. And so I figured I need to bring on somebody much smarter than me to get their take on how this is going to impact the industry because it very well may have an impact or at least a perceived impact on the future of the real estate and mortgage industry. So, without further ado, I'm bringing on my good friend Michael Gillani, who is a regional manager with USA Mortgage, has a ton of experience in this industry. Michael, I can't do your introduction justice, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and let's dive into the good, the bad, the ugly of this big news.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on. And I'm trying to figure out who's going to be hopping on to this podcast with us since you said somebody smarter than you. I'm waiting for that to happen. But anyway, appreciate that. And yeah, I've had the pleasure of being in this business for close to 25 years now. So I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but have had a lot of fun and had a lot of great experiences. And had the pleasure of starting out in retail and then working my way into wholesale and owning my own brokerage for 14 years prior to joining USA Mortgage about 7 years ago now. So it's been quite some time, and so I've seen a lot of ups and downs and a lot of transitions in the market in the industry. And there seems to be this constant analysis that the sky is falling. I feel like that's coming from all sides, and it's been doing that for many years. But as we all know, the industry continues to evolve and persist, and the sky typically is not falling. And so, yeah, so excited to discuss that with you today.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. And back to your comment about the smarter person. I mean, I set the bar very low when I say smarter than me. So,
Yeah.
it's easy. It's easy to achieve that. Now, you and I were just talking off air about recent, really the last 12 to 24 months, and some of the quote unquote experts who truly are experts have really kind of missed the mark on their predictions. And I even mentioned it's like you just throw traditional metrics out the window because it's kind of like pure chaos. And so before we get into this rocket thing, maybe give us a little bit of your analysis on what that means. And for me, I'll just say it, people like Barry Habib, right, with MBS Highway. What is your take on just this missing the mark?
Yeah, no, I think, and for starters, like I love Barry. He's a great guy and a very smart guy and has a ton of experience and in this industry and just in economics in general. So I have a lot of respect for him and what he says. I will say that I think, Barry, obviously he's got a great platform, MBS Highway, that loan officers plug into, and there's a lot of great services and resources there that are available. The one thing where I think I maybe stray or disagree with Barry's approach is, when you're making predictions, obviously, I think it's important to preface the fact that we can, make a hypothesis based on what our past experiences have told us and what past market, um, you know, happenings have led to. But at the end of the day, I think it's not really a great thing to say, hey, this is going to happen on this date. And I think Barry kind of met that mark back in May 10th of 2023 when he promised that the markets, were going to shift and we were going to see rates fall and the end of this storm that we were in was going to happen. And of course, we all know that not only did that not happen, the actual opposite happened. Rates shot up significantly throughout that, and there was reasons for that. And I think Barry was definitely genuine in his desire to make an accurate prediction. But I think he met the fate of what now a lot of analysts have seen happen over the course of the last 10 years, even in that you can't predict the market one way or another, right? And so there's a constantly changing dynamic going on. And so you can make analysis and say, hey, this is what the trend is currently, and this is what I think may happen. But I think that it's a massive risk to go out and make any specific statement to say this will happen, because there's really no way of knowing that. And Matt Graham is another industry expert who runs MBS Live, which is another um, data aggregation company and market watch and everything. And so, I think there's a little difference between him and Barry in the sense that, he's more of like, hey, this is what's happening right now, and we can analyze what's happening and why it's happening. But we still don't know what's going to happen later this afternoon, let alone tomorrow, because any number of headlines can come out for any number of reasons that can have a dramatic impact on what will or may happen. So I kind of lean more towards that approach as far as making my educated guesses on what I think may happen and being able to educate loan officers and clients and consumers too. I think Barry's more of an optimist, and so a motivating optimist, and so it's just a different school of thought. But over the course, and you and I talked about this off air, but the last 10 to 15 years, there's been people in the media primarily that have no clue what they're talking about most of the time, that have been claiming that the housing market was going to crash and values were going to plummet and you shouldn't buy real estate because the end was coming. And of course, if you would have listened to any of those people over the past 10 years, you would have cost yourself hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in appreciation and net worth, right? So, and every year when those folks were proven wrong, they would have a new reason of why it's going to happen this year, that it didn't happen last year. And so they've been continuously and perpetually wrong. And I think that's the case. And we all know that real estate has been the best and continues to be the best long-term investment that you can make as an American in this country. And so that's one thing that I think you can hang your hat on. And you might see ups and downs, but at the end of the day, long term, it's always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting what you said there too, because the one thing I've noticed, especially for me, as I've gotten really, integrated into the media world, is, and I think this has really evolved over the last 10, 15 years to where it's like most news anymore is really designed for clicks, for views, for the data, so they can then sell ads, right? And so it's like nowadays, you I almost believe that most news is not even really news as much as it is trying to stir the pot just to get people riled up. And it amazes me, and maybe I'm naive to think like this, but it's like it amazes me how few humans still don't get that and get all caught up in that nonsense. And this applies to across the, I mean, you let's just use weather, as an example. Like
Sure.
that's basically been a just throwing darts against a dartboard for however many years.
Right.
And for whatever reason, because we see somebody on TV, we believe that they know actually what that can actually predict it, right? It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is. It's, I've been listening to analysts promise, and I'm talking, when I say analysts, I'm talking about like some of the top rated gurus, Ivy League, grads and Harvard, Yale, Princeton MBAs, and these guys telling you, market gurus saying that I guarantee you the 10-year treasury is going to be a point or two higher this time next year than it is today. And they've been saying that since 2010 all the way through COVID and 2022. And we finally saw a shift take place, but it had nothing to do with any of the reasons that they had been claiming for the past 12 years that were going to happen and why.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's obviously move this forward now. Obviously, big news, and again, I mentioned it in the very beginning. So Rocket effectively buying Redfin, and from what I've read and watched, overpaid for it. However, those of us in the industry probably have a decent understanding of maybe why they would do that. So I'd love to just get your take on, first of all, what just happened,
Mhm.
and then why do you think it happened?
You know, it's interesting to see what's kind of taking place with some of these different companies in the industry and why this particular thing happened. I think there's three companies right now that have made a concerted decision to go after a fully digitized process and make the lending real estate one big ecosystem of digital experience within their organizations, and that's Rocket, that's Zillow, and that's ICE Mortgage Technologies, right? And so those three organizations have made a focus on going out and acquiring companies, acquiring technologies and being able to own the process from the consumer direct acquisition all the way through the real estate lending, title, closing, and then even servicing on the back end. And staying in front of folks for future refinance opportunities, right? And so we're talking about Rocket and Redfin here today, and I think that's, Rocket's already got its mobile application. They're giving people financial advice. They're managing people's debt situation, their credit. They've obviously been doing mortgages for quite some time. They've been doing all of this in a very digitized consumer direct platform, right? They don't have retail offices around the country with loan officers, boots on the ground, going around meeting with agents. They've taken a different approach from the mortgage side. They've got their call center in Detroit, and they also have a decent wholesale operation as well, working with brokers around the country. But with this acquisition of Redfin, it gives them a huge additional exposure directly to the consumer that's out there shopping for real estate. And so now being able to bring those folks in through the door, leveraging Redfin's websites that have about 50 million people per month in traffic, which is significant. Imagine as a mortgage company to be able to harness all of those folks that are looking to buy a home and automatically get them pre-approved. Rocket in 2024, they had deployed their automated pre-approval process where they guarantee that they can get you a pre-approval in 8 minutes. And so they're using AI bots to do the underwriting, the processing, the analytics, and everything, and issuing that pre-approval. Obviously, with self-employed and more difficult borrowers, it might take longer than that, obviously. But so now if they can have somebody come in through that website of Redfin's and say, I want to buy a house, click here to get pre-approved, and they can flip over a pre-approval in 8 minutes. Now they've got that mortgage secured, and then now they can have that worked by an agent. It'll be interesting to see how they do the agents, because Redfin's business model, which was failing, by the way, prior to this acquisition, where they pay their agents a salary and then they give them the leads from their websites and give them a small commission slash bonus on that. Rocket has Rocket Homes, which I don't know how many people are aware of. It's a network that they've created with agents from all different brokerages that join Rocket Homes as their network participant, and they get leads from Rocket, and Rocket gets 40% of the commission, and they have no overhead on that agent. And so imagine here, this is just my theory. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. But why wouldn't Rocket just get rid of all the Redfin agents, eliminate 1,800 salaries, which would probably save 100 million bucks a year, and funnel all the leads from the website to the Rocket Homes agents with zero overhead and get 40% of that commission? Plus, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to get the mortgage. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Not a stupid idea. We'll see what they do with that. But why pay all those salaries?
Yeah.
But
Well, and do you think though, now that you brought that up, that that could be probably the big reason why that Redfin was potentially struggling?
yeah, yeah, I think Redfin had a major overhead, right? We all know, obviously when it comes to uh, the real estate and the mortgage industry, right? You've got quite a dynamic landscape of professionals. You have some people that are focused as their full-time occupation and they're 100% committed and they're going in and they want to be top performers and they're working hard and they're doing that. And then you also have your kind of folks that are kind of in it half and half and they're doing other things or they're not really that focused. And so I think you see that throughout the industry, right? And so if you're paying somebody a salary and they're only closing a deal or two a year, that can become quite a significant overhead
Yeah.
over time, even if you're providing leads. So at the end of the day, Redfin's stock value was plummeting, and it had been over the course of the last several years. So no matter how you spin it, their business model wasn't working. Um, I think Rocket's acquisition is more data driven than the business. They don't care about the agents and Redfin's business model. They just want access to that data and the consumer, and you can't blame them because it plugs directly into what their stated strategy is on data at accessing data, aggregating that data, and being able to leverage that data to catapult their overall business model to the next level.
Yeah. So a couple things to unpack there. Number one, Interesting theory, which makes a lot of sense, which hasn't really been mentioned, but very well could be the thing that's kind of their driving reason why they overpaid. If A, for the data, because Redfin does have incredible data, they're a top three source, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and they've been doing it wrong. Rocket's got this model that maybe not a lot of people know about that they're going to effectively integrate in and not only maybe do it better, but now ultimately they're trying to a couple things, as you mentioned, digitize, dehumanize the process, but
Right.
also Rocket, for those that aren't in the industry, may not know that that's really a refi shop, for lack of a better way to describe
Yeah.
it, and they are desperately trying to pull themselves into the purchase world. And so, unpack both of those for me, if you don't mind. The concept of digitizing, dehumanizing the industry, which anybody in the industry, I think, is obviously very much against. And then the second part of that, which is, trying to, I'll call it, trying to basically ramp up their lack of ability to integrate or kind of get into the real estate, the purchase mortgage world, um, partially because of the fact that they're basically a call center. So, what are your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought, right? Because, I do think it's clear as day that their long-term strategy is is to go fully digital and to most likely eliminate the loan officer and the real estate agent, or at least their overhead, right? So you might still have certain aspects of what we know today as the loan officer and the real estate agent, but at a much lower price point when it comes to earnings and commission, if at all. I mean, you're talking about AI bots that are, I mean, you can go implement an AI bot slash loan officer into your system today that has a face that is attractive, that speaks well, that's clear, that's intuitive. That exists today. And we know that every 18 months, technology is doubling in its abilities and capacities from the beginning of time till today, right? So, I mean, it's almost incomprehensible to be able to think about that and where we are today and where we're going to be in 18 months from now. But I think that's what these guys are, their calculus is that we're going to fully digitize this from all aspects. And imagine if you could eliminate the loan officer commission and the real estate commission in the process and own it all. Imagine what type of revenue model that would create for you. And I mean, so you could generate a significant higher level of shareholder value, right? Which is what these public companies are at the end of the day focused on. And you could also make yourself price everybody out of the market too, because you could bring your margins down a lot thinner if you're cutting out, probably the largest amount of overhead throughout the real estate process is probably going to be the loan officer commission and the real estate commission. And so if you could mitigate those dramatically or eliminate them, imagine what that could do for your bottom line, if that's what your thought process is. Um, my mindset on it is that I don't think that that's going to be the future. I think that that's what their calculus is on what the future is going to be. And I think there's going to be a certain percentage of the marketplace that they will be able to secure and own with that approach. But at the end of the day, I think humans are humans, and we need to interact with each other. And when you're dealing with professionals, there's still going to be a place for the relationship building, the professional approach, the human to human contact and innovation. And I think that's going to remain. I think it's going to require people to be playing at a much higher level than they've been used to be playing up until now. So you're not going to be able to be a fly by night loan officer or realtor. You're not going to be able to shoot from the hip and just kind of deal with your friend from soccer and church and that kind of thing. You're going to have to be a fully focused relationship building professional, just like a financial advisor or a stockbroker or a doctor or an attorney and those kind of folks. So at the end of the day, I think technology is advancing significantly. It's going to play a part, but I do still think that if you're a truly seasoned innovative, creative, knowledgeable professional, you're going to be able to survive and thrive
Yeah.
in the future.
And you kind of already answered my next question, which really is how do you survive? And I'd like you just to expand a little bit further on that because I want to accentuate or highlight what Michael just said, which is in order to combat technology, AI, those sorts of things, you have to do your job at such a level that is not duplicatable or beatable by AI. It's and Michael, I say the exact same thing in now my business, which is social media. It's the same concept. It
Right.
it will be arguably in many ways better, but it will never be human. It will
Correct.
never be authentic. It will never have opinions like a human. And that's where you have to lean into with your marketing. I assume the answer is similar to how you need to do your job in order to combat what you're basically predicting is potentially coming, or I'm going to say it for you, that this is what Rocket is basically trying to do, which is eliminate our jobs as humans.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. I
so,
mean,
so what do you say? What do you say to, a real estate agent calls you today and like, Michael, I'm scared. Loan officer calls you today, I'm scared. What's your advice?
I think, why are you in this business? Why would do you consider yourself a professional? And if the answer to that is yes, as it should be, if you're doing this, then what is your business plan moving forward? You've got to come up with one. You can't just say, I'm going to work at this company and I'm going to switch to this company because they're offering me more basis points and I'm getting a signing. Like the days of that are over, right? If that's how you're operating your business, you need to be focused on what you're going to do individually to grow your business, secure relationships, and be able to put yourself as a differentiator amongst your competitors, because that's what consumers are looking for, right? And referral partners too. I think you have to become more dynamic in who you're working with. That most loan officers are only focused on working with real estate agents. I don't think that's a smart play. Even back years ago when I was still producing, I worked with a lot of different referral partners. I expanded my personal network. And so I got most of my referrals through my personal sphere of influence and people that trusted me as a professional. And then I was able to work with the agents I chose to work with because I was already working with the consumer. So I do think that's an important thought to have moving forward. Get to the consumer first. If you can get to the consumer first, you now own the opportunity. And then you can work with whatever industry professional slash referral partner that you choose to on your own terms, instead of running around like a puppy dog begging people to have coffee with you and give you the time of day. And so I think the leverage that those referral partners have had for years is slowly grinding to a halt. We don't know what's going to happen with the real estate industry moving forward, and we don't know how much leverage that those agents are going to continue to carry. But I think they're important to work with, and I think it's just about finding the right business partner. So I don't think, and I preach this to my loan officers all the time. I'm like, there shouldn't be the balance scales should be even with whoever you're working with. And you should be working with referral partners because you want to work together and help each other grow business together as business partners, not because one side feels that they have leverage over the other side and, where's your credit card or what are you going to do for me, that type of thing. If somebody's asking you those questions, I would say run and find somebody else. And because they're not truly a business partner. And so financial advisors are a huge component of where I always got my business and where I've been coaching up my team to get their business, and they're having tremendous success doing that. I think working through other means of building yourself as the knowledgeable, authority in your market. So people are like, hey, I've got clients that are looking to do this, or they're getting divorced, or they're, you know, oh, you got to call this guy because he's the expert. And I think consumers like that. I mean, if you get diagnosed with a critical illness, what's your first thought? You want to find the number one doctor in your market that treats that
Yeah.
effectively and successfully, and you don't care what they cost. And you're going to do anything you can do to get in and see them, right? So I think if we can make ourselves out to be that type of professional expert, the consumer is always going to seek you out and want to work with you.
I love it, man. This has been fruitful. Let me end this by asking you if somebody listening to this says, "Man, I got to connect with that guy because I want to pick his brain. I want to talk more to him." What is the best way for somebody to get connected to you?
It's a good question. I've got social media. I don't know all my handles offhand. I guess I should, right? I'm talking to the media guru over here, but I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, all those fun things that you're about ready to take over for me here shortly. But email, text, phone, whatever. I guess I can share those with
Please,
you,
please.
and you can put those out there.
Yeah, but go ahead and say them as well, and we'll flash them on the
Yeah,
screen as well.
email's mgillani at usa-mortgage.com. Cell is 314-651-2348. And like I said, you can look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or any of those other media components, and it'd be happy.
Are you most active on any one social platform?
I'm probably on Facebook and the LinkedIn and Instagram the most, on a
Yep.
daily basis. So, definitely feel free to connect there, and X also.
Awesome.
So
Michael, it's been a pleasure. We're definitely gonna have to do this again and keep talking
yeah,
about
man,
some
happy to.
talk about what's hot in the news. Thank you for being on today. And again, if you listened all the way through, make sure you connect with Michael because obviously the dude knows what the hell he's talking about.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.